Most people believe power announces itself. They think it's loud, visible, obvious. A title, a corner office, a dominant voice. But if you observe carefully, real power rarely introduces itself at all. It simply shapes the room. Have you ever noticed how two people can enter the same meeting, say the same number of words, and walk out with completely different outcomes? One is remembered, the other disappears. That difference is not confidence, it's not intelligence, and it's definitely not kindness. It's something far less discussed and far more uncomfortable. It's psychological position, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let me start with a simple moment. Imagine you're at work. A meeting ends. People gather their things, and afterward, a small group stays behind talking casually with the manager. You weren't excluded deliberately. No one insulted you. No one said you didn't belong. You just weren't part of it. That silent separation is how hierarchy actually functions in modern life. Not through force, not through rules, but through invisible alignment. Most people spend their entire lives trying to earn respect by being agreeable, competent and reliable. They assume merit alone moves them forward. And then they watch others rise faster, speak less, and somehow gain influence without appearing to chase it. This creates confusion, then frustration, then quiet resentment. But the truth is simpler than we like to admit. Social systems don't reward goodness. They reward usefulness, predictability, and emotional leverage. This isn't pessimism. It's pattern recognition. Human beings are not wired to respond to fairness. They are wired to respond to perceived advantage. And that wiring hasn't changed just because we wear suits instead of armor. At the neurological level, the brain constantly asks one question when evaluating others. Is this person a risk, a resource, or irrelevant? Most people unknowingly present themselves as the third option. They overshare. They explain too much. They signal eagerness. And eagerness, while socially praised, triggers something dangerous in power dynamics. It signals dependency. Dependency shifts the balance instantly. You can feel it when someone wants your approval too badly. It creates subtle discomfort, a sense that they're leaning toward you emotionally. And power never leans. Power waits. This is where most networking advice collapses. You're told to be authentic, be yourself, and build genuine relationships. That advice works only after leverage already exists. Before that point, authenticity without strategy is exposure. Because when someone with influence meets you, they are not asking who you are. They are asking what role you could play in their world. And if you don't define that role carefully, your nervous system will do it for you. You'll smile too quickly, agree too easily, feel silences out of anxiety. None of this is conscious. It's biological. The brain, under perceived lower status, seeks safety through compliance. That's why power isn't impressed by effort. Effort looks like need. Instead, power responds to constraint, boundaries, selectivity, emotional control. Think about someone you respect deeply. They are probably not the most expressive person you know. They don't rush to explain themselves. They don't chase validation. They don't reveal urgency. Their presence feels contained. That containment signals independence, and independence is the currency of influence. Here's where things get uncomfortable. Most people try to connect upward by offering friendliness. But friendliness without leverage is forgettable. Influential people don't need warmth. They have plenty of it around them. What they lack is clarity, insulation, and advantage. They are constantly surrounded by noise. Everyone wants something. Everyone has a problem. Everyone has an opinion. So their brain learns to filter aggressively. If you approach them emotionally, you blend into the noise. If you approach them structurally, you stand out. Structural value is calm. It doesn't beg. It doesn't rush. It quietly solves. That's why the most powerful people often gravitate toward individuals who feel emotionally neutral. Not cold, not distant, but stable. Stability lowers cognitive load, and anything that lowers cognitive load becomes valuable. This is the psychology behind why certain people gain access without seeming impressive. They don't try to dominate conversations. They listen selectively. They speak when it alters direction. They don't display ambition openly. They allow others to project assumptions onto them. Ambiguity creates curiosity. Curiosity reverses the chase. And reversal is where leverage begins. If someone is trying to figure you out, they are already invested. Now let's talk about visibility. Most people believe being noticed requires performance. So they over-deliver, over-explain, and over-communicate. But overexposure erodes perceived value. In economics, abundance lowers price. The same rule applies socially. When you are always available, you become expected. When you are expected, you are replaceable. Strategic absence, when done correctly, creates contrast. You don't disappear dramatically. You simply stop orbiting. You become present when it matters and unavailable when it doesn't. This sends a quiet signal. I have a center of gravity that isn't you. That signal is disarming because it suggests you are operating from choice, not need. And need is the one thing power avoids being responsible for. Before we continue, let me pause here. If you're finding this perspective useful, not motivational, not comforting but clarifying, this channel is dedicated to psychology, power dynamics, and the unspoken rules that shape real life. If you want more content that explains what people feel but rarely articulate, consider subscribing now. It helps the channel grow, and it ensures you don't miss future deep dives like this one. Now back to the mechanism. One of the most misunderstood aspects of influence is imitation. Most people think imitation is flattery, but at the neurological level, it's alignment. When two people mirror pace, tone, posture, and language patterns, their brains synchronize. This synchronization reduces threat perception. The mind categorizes similarity as safety. That's why people feel instantly comfortable with some individuals and guarded around others. It's not magic, it's pattern matching. Those who understand this don't imitate, obviously. They calibrate. They match energy, not behavior. If someone is decisive, they're concise. If someone is reflective, they slow down. They don't challenge identity. They reinforce it. Because identity defense is one of the strongest human instincts. When someone feels their self-image is validated, they relax. And when they relax, access opens. This is also why arguing with powerful people rarely works. You're not debating facts. You're threatening identity. And identity always wins. The smartest approach isn't opposition. It's reframing. You present ideas as extensions of their worldview. You don't confront. You redirect. This preserves their internal narrative while allowing change. From the outside, it looks like influence. From the inside, it feels like agreement. Another underappreciated factor in power relationships is emotional regulation. High-status individuals operate under constant pressure. Decisions compound. Consequences multiply. So they unconsciously seek people who reduce internal friction. If interacting with you feels complex, draining, or chaotic, you become avoidable. If interacting with you feels orderly, contained, and efficient, you become attractive. This is why emotional steadiness often outperforms charisma. Charisma excites, stability reassures, and reassurance is addictive under stress. Think about the person at work who always seems unbothered, not indifferent, just composed. When problems arise, they don't escalate emotionally. They clarify. They resolve. They move on. That person becomes trusted not because they are brilliant, but because they are predictable under pressure. Predictability in chaos equals safety. Safety equals reliance. Reliance equals influence. But influence alone isn't security, because influence without uniqueness is fragile. If what you offer can be replicated easily, it won't protect you. This is where most people make a critical mistake. They teach everything they know. They document their processes completely. They make themselves replaceable in the name of transparency. Transparency is admirable. It's also dangerous without leverage. True security comes from being difficult to substitute. That doesn't mean withholding value. It means specializing in something that integrates deeply into outcomes. You become the connector, the translator, the stabilizer. You occupy a role that isn't easily isolated. And once someone's success partially depends on your presence, your position solidifies. This isn't manipulation. It's structural reality. Organizations don't protect people. They protect functions. The closer you are to an irreplaceable function, the safer you become. Now let's address the final paradox. The most powerful shift occurs when you stop needing access. When you genuinely feel capable of walking away. This isn't arrogance. It's internal independence. When your identity, income, or self-worth is tied to someone else's approval, your body signals it. Microtension, excess politeness, over-responsiveness. These signals are subconscious, but they are read instantly. Conversely, when you operate from internal sufficiency, your behavior slows, your voice steadies, your presence expands. You no longer seek permission to exist in the room, and that energy is unmistakable. People with influence are surrounded by people who bend. When they encounter someone who stands without pushing, it disrupts expectation. Disruption creates interest. Interest creates respect. Respect creates connection. This is why true leverage doesn't come from strategy alone. It comes from self-containment, from having a life, a direction, and a code that exists independently of any one relationship. When you connect from wholeness, you don't chase power. Power adjusts to you. So here's the real takeaway. The world isn't divided into good people and bad people. It's divided into those who understand psychological structure and those who operate on hope. Hope is comforting. Structure is effective. Understanding these dynamics doesn't make you cruel. It makes you aware. Awareness allows choice. And choice is the foundation of agency. You don't need to dominate rooms. You don't need to manipulate minds. You need to understand how humans actually respond, not how we wish they would. When you do, your position shifts quietly. And one day, without any announcement, you'll notice something different. People pause when you speak. They seek your input. They remember you when decisions are made, not because you demanded it, but because you earned structural relevance. And that is how influence really works.